Nigel Farage was an argumentative schoolboy, an army cadet. But after fee-paying Dulwich College in South London, he went straight into the city as a metal trader. He was a low-key, not very active Conservative Party member. Then, in October 1990, the government announced the pound would be pegged to European currencies.
Britain enters the exchange rate mechanism and cuts interest rates.
We've done it because the policy is right.
A city friend broke the news to Nigel Farage in a bar. He'd long felt the entanglements of Europe were hurting the city. But from this moment, a saloon bar argument became a political mission.
Oh, I remember the bar I was in. Yes, it was after work, about 5:30, and the announcement came out. I won't tell you what I said, but it was pretty Anglo-Saxon. Prior to us joining the exchange rate mechanism, I'd never stood for anything. It was never part of my game plan. My game plan in 1990 was to try and set up on my own in business and, frankly, try and make a lot of money.
He became a founder member of Ukip. The party at its birth could fit into one room.
We must get out of the European Union.
For years, it was seen as a cranky fringe group.
Pick up your leaflets here.
Great result.
It's now mushroomed into a significant political force. Driven by Nigel Farage's decision to put immigration at the top of his agenda, attracting much abuse along the way.
I tell you what, I've been up half the night. This is absolutely marvellous.
With a lot of electoral advances to celebrate down the pub.
The success of recent years has spawned whole new ambitions for Nigel Farage, a far cry from the crusty backroom meetings on the EU superstate where he started. These days, you're likely to find him talking about trying to redraw the entire British political landscape. And for some of the long marchers in the anti-EU family, that suggests Nigel Farage has lost the plot.
If you want to parallel, it's Oswald Mosley in the 30s. Not to say that Farage is a fascist or Hitler supporter, no, but it's the same sort of surge, a demagogue, and gets a notoriety and popularity based on a nihilistic message that will always attract an amount of support.
Your mission. Do you actually most want to destroy the Conservative Party, most want to destroy the Labour Party, or not really care?
I'm not really interested.
That's anarchic.
I'm not really interested. No.
You just want to kick something.
Well, I don't see much
That's what
difference.
people say about it.
I don't see a great difference between the Conservative Party and Labour Party. They look the same, they sound the same on major issues.
There'd be the world of difference in a country that didn't have one of those, and you just want to kick them both and see which one falls over.
Well, I think that British politics needs a radical fresh change. It needs a new political party.
You've no idea what will replace it. If you clear the landscape like a hurricane, what will be built in its place?
Well, if we were to get rid of a two-party system that has done as badly as these people have done over the course of the last 17 or 18 years, whatever comes afterwards will be better.
A party that was often a refugee camp for disaffected Conservatives is now pursuing the blue-collar traditional Labour vote, spraying around spending promises for health, social care, tuition fees. But the messenger is hardly a natural Labour sort.
You're someone who believes passionately in the smaller state. You start as a Thatcherite. You've even contemplated rethinking the NHS. But when you go out to knock on a traditional Labour voter's door, you don't say all that. Well, that makes you a bit like other politicians, isn't it?
Well, no, I don't agree with that at all. You know, here we are in the north of England, and what I'm talking about is meritocracy. What I'm talking about is ordinary folk getting an even break.
But a very small welfare state might not help people around here, and you're not telling them a lot about that's where you come from.
Well, I'm not telling them what I studied at school when I was 8.
There's Nigel Farage wandering around some traditional Labour heartlands trying to pick up votes. But he's not really telling those voters that he's a self-proclaimed Thatcherite, a sympathiser with the Tea Party and a libertarian.
Well, does it matter? Does it matter? I mean,
well, I think some of those voters might think it did.
Well, first of all, I disagree with the way that you're characterising him.
That's what he says about himself in the book.
Nigel Farage can be who he likes. But as much as we all very much respect Nigel Farage is not UKIP. As you know, I'm writing the UKIP manifesto, and Nigel's the sort of last person I talk to, actually, about policy. I talk first to our spokesman, We discuss things in our policy team. We take advice from various consultants that we have. We talk to trade unions. We talk to charities. We talk to professional organisations.
But if Nigel doesn't like it, it doesn't happen, does it?
Well, if Nigel doesn't like it, then he does have the final say as leader.
One former Ukip officer who worked for years with Nigel Farage claims a very different character emerges away from the cameras.
There's times when guests coming to the offices wouldn't have to ask the direction, you just have to listen for the man screaming. You could hear him from one end of the corridor to the other, screaming down the phone in the most aggressive way possible. And of course that carried over into National Executive Committee meetings, where anybody who confronted him got both barrels and more.
UKIP is littered with the corpses of people who crossed Nigel Farage or tried to challenge you. It's a pretty brutal party, isn't it? And you're perhaps a rather brutal leader?
No, I'm very straightforward. What you see is what you get. I trust everybody that I meet in life until they let me down, and then I never speak to them again. It's quite simple.
But there's an awful lot of those, aren't there?
Well, of course there are. It's a voluntary organisation. It's a voluntary organisation.
This particular organisation sometimes looks a bit like a drinking club.
How many pints have you drunk on this campaign?
Incalculable, Dubai. Adrenaline and booze, it's kept me going beautifully. Absolutely marvellous.
Deeply, drink deeply, and love will repay you with kisses beyond compare.
Your father, you've written about this, was an alcoholic.
Yeah.
A lot of people who are the children of alcoholics have a very wary relationship with alcohol.
Either you're lucky or you're not.
You're sure you're lucky?
Well, incredibly lucky. I mean, look, I just stopped in January. I didn't drink.
Alcoholics stop occasionally.
Well, I didn't stop for the month of January. I stopped for the month of January and didn't miss it a bit. I'm one of those lucky people.
You're not a
I know.
Character. You're not an alcoholic.
I can take it or leave it. And the interesting thing is, the older I get, and I'm now over 50, my consumption is going down and down and down with every year that goes past.
Nigel Farage lives quite modestly in Kent. He's sure he'd be loaded if he'd stayed in the city. Instead, he's trying for the 6th time to get elected as an MP. He's told his party, if he fails, he'll resign as leader.
I will try and persuade him not to. If he does lose a seat, I don't think he will.
So it's that bad for the party?
I don't think he will.
You think he should renege on his promise?
No, I don't think he should renege on his promise, but I think people would encourage him to. I certainly would, because I think he's a very good leader. Well, I suppose it would, but perhaps it's I don't think he should. That's all I can say.
In his campaign memoir, Nigel Farage describes the lonely journey of leadership. In 5 weeks' time, he'll find out if that journey is over or setting off in dramatic new directions.